Thank you for watching QTV with the news. My name is Diana Sumbwe. The headlines. The ruling Patriotic Front and 30 other political parties under the ZCID have resolved to shun the launch of the National Dialogue by the Church. UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema says the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue should not keep dragging the country backwards. And the Zambia tax platform ZTP has echoed the call for government and mining companies to dialogue in order to resolve the tax standoff. And now the news in detail. The ruling Patriotic Front and 30 other political parties and the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue ZCID have resolved to shun the official launch of the National Dialogue. ZCID board chairperson Nathan Mulonga has disclosed at a media briefing in Lusaka that this follows a meeting the 31 political parties held on Thursday. Mr. Mulonga says one of the reasons the 31 political parties will stay away from the launch is the refusal by the three church mother bodies leading the dialogue process to sign a memorandum of understanding with the ZCID. Our staffer Lazarus Sichula has more in this report.
Uncertainty has befallen the church-led national dialogue process. With just a few hours to the launch, key stakeholders, political parties, have pulled out from the process. Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue board chairperson Nathan Mulonga has announced that one political parties will shun Friday's official launch of the National Dialogue. Mr. Mulonga has told journalists at this media briefing in Lusaka on Thursday, political parties have now resolved to go it on their own and hold their own President's Summit.
We only appeal as ZCID to the church to consider, if the head of state is not around, to seek for clarity with the Patriotic Front and with the State House possibly on when he is going to be available. So, as far as we are concerned, as ZCID, we have given our positions and we continue to guide the nation as regards to the national dialogue so that people are informed as to where we are in the dialogue process.
The opposition MMD, which is one of the political parties that will shun Friday's launch, believes the decision has been made in the best interest of the nation.
I think there is need for us to be able to undertake the process that we did and build every people know, but also have a very clear agenda and also structure ourselves in a manner that the process will not have optimistic elements.
The ruling PF has also maintained it will remain committed to ensuring all necessary reforms as agreed upon by political parties see the light of day.
Well, of course, like we've said before, we are very committed to the dialogue process. And obviously, as soon as we get direction as to how to proceed, we remain committed.
Okay.
And the constitutional reforms are part of the thematic, is one of the thematic areas that is being looked at in the dialogue process.
The UPND, however, has a warning to President Edgar Lungu.
Other presidents, when they have serious issues back home, they attend to local issues before they attend to other issues outside. When your house is burning, you cannot leave your house burning and go to put on fire over another person's house. It doesn't work like that. You have to solve your problem first before you attempt to solve the problems of others.
If you notice that there is a lack of seriousness on the part of the president, as the party, will you continue being party to this whole process, the dialogue process?
We'll continue to participate in the dialogue process. We believe that is also the resolution of the three church mother bodies who are leading the dialogue process. We'll forge ahead. We'll continue to participate. Let the nation judge as to who is serious and who is not serious. But with us, we'll attend.
Whether or not the church will go ahead to launch the national dialogue in the absence of some political parties remains to be seen. The time and venue is already known. 10 hours at the Anglican Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Lusaka. Lazarus Sichula, QTV News.
President Edgar Lungu has not yet received a formal invitation to attend the dialogue meeting, Chief Government Spokesperson Dora Silia has disclosed. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka, Ms. Celia says as of 16th January, when she spoke to the secretary to the cabinet, the president had not yet received an invitation. She stressed that the head of state can only attend the dialogue process or meeting if a formal invitation is sent to him 48 hours earlier. Ms. Celia says that therefore, if the summit for political leaders will be held on Friday or any time soon, the head of state will not attend because he has not received the invitation. He is also out and he is also out of the country attending to other national matters. She has, however, stated that President Lungu looks forward to the president attending the summit for political leaders.
As I spoke with Secretary to Cabinet last night, the President of the Republic of Zambia had not received any invitation to attend a dialogue. That's number one. Number two, that even if an invitation came today, it is impossible for two reasons. One, the President is out of the country on national duties. That is one. But number two, the President, even if he was in the country, government does not move the president on an invitation that comes less than 48 hours before. Because the president's diary is a serious one. He has to meet international people, he has to meet local people, he has to go out of town, he has to go out of the country. That's why his position as president of PF is unique, because he's also president of the republic. So his calendar is not managed by him. He cannot just wake up and say, me, I'm going to that meeting. No, there are a lot of people around the presidency who manages movement from A to B. For him to get out of the State House buildings, there are a lot of people involved. It's not up to him. There are a lot of people involved who manage his diary. People who manage his diary, who manage his security, who manage his motorcade, who manage all these issues. So the standard is that he cannot move 48 hours, less than 48 hours to an invitation. Now, as of last night, Secretary to Cabinet confirmed to me that he had not received an invitation for His Excellency to attend any dialogue. Now, if the party secretary generals of political parties could come together and agree on an agenda, we are wondering why up to now this process of political parties, of political party presidents has not happened. You are aware that right now the president did leave South Africa after his meetings regarding the DRC and also his medicals, that now he's in Addis Ababa for the agent meeting over the DRC. He is working, but even as he's doing his international duties, he's very, very eager to be invited to a meeting of political party presidents so that this process can come to its logical conclusion.
United Party for National Development UPND President Hakainde Hichilema has advised the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue ZCID to behave in an orderly manner acceptable for a Christian nation like Zambia. And Mr. Hichilema says he will attend the launch of the national dialogue organized by the three church mother bodies. Speaking at a media briefing, Mr. Hichilema says that there are many issues affecting the country and that the ZCID must not keep dragging the country backwards. He says the church has the capacity to lead the dialogue process as it did in the past, including during the one-party state era. Mr. Hichilema says that the contention on who should lead the dialogue is unnecessary, as the country needs to make progress on several issues negatively impacting its oneness and developmental agenda. Meanwhile, Alliance for Change PAC President Anford Banda says he's hoping that the church will courageously move on with the dialogue process despite some political parties pulling out at the last minute. Mr. Banda has told Q News in an interview that people involved in the dialogue process cannot be held to ransom by a few individuals who are serving their self-interest.
The People's Alliance for Change has held meetings with the ZCID. We've also held meetings with the church. Our conclusion has been that the church have the capacity, the maturity, and the will to actually deal with the dialogue process. We've just received reports and we've seen a communique from ZCID that they have pulled out of the dialogue process. As PAC, we are attending the launch of the dialogue tomorrow, and we hope that the ZCID board, this current board, should pull out of this process for good, because they have been dragging us left, right and center, playing Tom and Jerry ping pong, instead of making progress. We cannot be held to ransom by a few individuals who are serving self-interest. we need to move with the dialogue process. The dialogue process is a national process. It's a process that involves a whole lot of other people, as opposed to a few individuals who are members of the ZCID board. They should not lie to anyone to say that, you know, the constituents of ZCID members will not attend the meeting. Most of the members of ZCID, who each park belongs to, support the church-led dialogue. So the problem we have here is not the ZCID itself, it's a ZCID board.
And UNIP Deputy Secretary General Reverend Alfred Banda says boycotts in any circumstance do not work. Reverend Banda says that the national dialogue is a very important process which every stakeholder has to participate in. The Zambia tax platform ZTP has echoed the call for dialogue in resolving the tax standoff between government and mining firms. The ZTP, which is a consortium of 15 civil society organizations, is urging government to open doors for an open dialogue with mining companies over the new mine tax regime. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka, ZTP representative Chinai Mukumba said the consortium is against the tactic by the mines to use workers as bargaining tools in the standoff with government. Ms. Mukumba, who is also Consumer Unit Trust Society Cuts International Center head, says the ZTP recommends that the mines instead provide evidence of the losses they will be making in view of the new tax regime. She says that the Zambia tax platform is optimistic that a solution can be found if both government and the mines engage in constructive talks.
As ZTP, we would like to appeal to these companies to rescind their plans to dismiss the workers and instead engage with the government for a more constructive resolution of this impasse. ZTP remains optimistic that an amicable solution can be found between the mining companies and the government. We urge both parties to work towards this end for the good of both the mining companies and the country. While ZTP understands the need for mining companies to generate profits from their investments and the need for a conducive and consistent policy environment for the mining sector to thrive, there is also a need for mining companies to appreciate the need for them to pay a fair share of taxes to the government to ensure that the Zambian people benefit from their mines. ZTP wishes to reiterate that mining firms have an obligation to pay their fair share of taxes.
Speaking at the same media briefing, Civil Society for Poverty Reduction CSPR Executive Director Patrick Nshindano warned of consequences if the government and mines standoff remains unresolved. Mr. Nshindano says besides the 21,000 job losses, the Zambian government will see a reduction in tax revenue from the mines.
And if a cost-benefit analysis is done, which we are encouraging government to do, in terms of the revenue that is, or the benefits that are going to accrue from the new mining tax regime, and that actually surpasses that of laying off the 21,000 workers, I would suggest that we still go ahead as a country and basically provide support to the 21,000 in terms of both skills training, in other ventures, entrepreneurship support, so that they don't become destitute based on the retrenchment packages that they will be given, and government to be able to support them to engage in other income generation ventures. And this is if we do find that the cost-benefit analysis, the loss or the gains outweigh the loss of the 21,000 as a country, we should proceed in that direction.
And Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD Head of Programs and Research, Brian Mwinga, has observed that a loss of 21,000 jobs will mean 21,000 families being impoverished.
So we know the extent of the damage that would be caused. And I think we've seen the mines doing that in the past. At the point when there was an adjustment to electricity tariffs, you saw the mines coming up with the same threat that they're going to lay off workers for them to maintain their profits. But then when you look at the Zambians, at the point when the electricity tariffs were adjusted for Zambians, we don't complain, but the mines are being subsidized. And then that's why we're calling for dialogue. The only way to resolve some of these issues, contentious issues that they're having between the mines and the government, is for them to sit on a round table and get to a win-win situation. we are cognizant of the fact that the mines are here to make profits, but we also know that the Zambians have to benefit from the mines that they have. Because if we don't benefit from the minerals that are within Zambia, where are we going to benefit?
Government has launched a $26.5 million United States dollars project dubbed Electricity Services Access Project (ESAP), aimed at accelerating electricity access for rural areas in Zambia. The 5-year project will be implemented between 2017 and 2022 and will benefit 22,000 low-income households and about 1,000 medium and small-scale enterprises in rural areas. Speaking during the launch of the project, Minister of Energy Matthew Nkuwa says beneficiaries will be connected to electricity through the main grid at a subsidized rate of 250 kwacha. Mr. Nkuwa says the project is jointly being implemented by the Rural Electrification Authority, ZESCO, and the World Bank in 9 provinces, namely Luapula, Northern, Northwestern, Western, Buchinga, Central, Eastern, Copperbelt, and Southern.
Despite the government creating electricity infrastructure in rural areas, the level of uptake has remained very low. This is due to high connection fees that rural communities cannot afford. In this regard, the government has been looking at undertaking appropriate intervention to help rural communities. Today, I'm happy to announce that the government of the Republic of Zambia, through RIA, has negotiated a credit facility from the World Bank to accelerate electricity access for rural areas in Zambia. Government has formulated a 5-year project through these credit facilities, which we are calling Electricity Services Access Project, ESAP in short. The project development objective is to increase electricity access in targeted rural areas of Zambia. The project will provide last-mile connection to the national grid to about 22,000 low-income households and about 1,000 medium and small-scale enterprises in rural areas. This will generally translate into over an estimated of 115,000 beneficiaries. The project, which we are launching today, shall be implemented between 2017 and 2022. As you can see, we are in 2019 and we are launching it today. I must say that although we seem to be behind time, like MD for ZESCO said, in 3 months we managed to connect 6,000 houses.
Speaking at the same launch, World Bank Country Manager Ina Malin Ruthenberg pledged the bank's commitment to providing access to electricity.
System distributions. This is about, we like to say, creating markets. I think markets are already out there. We need to catalyze those markets. And how to do that? How to pull in the private sector? This is a very important component of this project. To explore, to identify, and then, if it works, to upscale. And there's technical assistance packaged in the project, also very important to support the government's energy planning and management functions. Now, when we support a project, we want to be part of a big national endeavor, a national program. And here, the government of Zambia has set the frame. Only 2 months ago, it launched the National Electrification Program. It's a very ambitious strategy to accelerate electricity access, and it promotes integrated planning, and that is also very important. So we are part of this long-term commitment of access to electricity, and we will, under this program, it will map out who, where, when, and which technologies will be supported. So we are basically under this umbrella of the government's own program. So in sum, very briefly, we are expanding access to electricity, and it's critical in fostering a strong, sustainable economic growth that is shared growth, that improves the livelihood of Zambians. Second, this project will bring modern electricity and access to that have never had it. So it's really households that have not had access to electricity.
And Rural Electrification Authority Chief Executive Officer Pastor Geoffrey Msonda says that the ESAP project will contribute greatly to the provision of electricity in rural areas, among other projects the Rural Electrification Authority has embarked on.
This project will be implemented by 3 parties. These include the Rural Electrification Authority as the main implementing agent on one hand. Then of course we have ZESCO and the Development Bank of Zambia. The specific roles of these institutions are to be governed by the project's policy documents, such as the project appraisal document, the operational manual, and the other documents. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not my intention to make a long speech, but let me implore beneficiaries to take full advantage of this project to improve their levels of income and add to the growth of the national economy. As RIA, we would like to see socio-economic improvement in areas where the project will be implemented. We are mindful of the priceless expectations among community members for future social and economic gains from the delivery of electricity in people's homes, schools, rural health.
Acting President Inongewina has described the death of Zambia Air Force Deputy Commander Major General Kapoto Chintu as a huge loss to the country. Speaking at the Cathedral of the Child of Jesus during the Requiem Mass for General Chintu, who was also Chief of Air Staff, Mrs. Wina said the late was instrumental to the nation as he was depended upon when it comes to training helicopter pilots. Mrs. Wina, who also described General Chintu as a gallant soldier who had an admirable personal expertise, adding that his demise has left an immense gap. We have more in this report.
They have braved the rains to bid farewell to late Zambia Air Force Commander Major General Kapoto Chintu. The mourners, who include Acting President Inongewina, service chiefs and senior government officials, gathered at the Cathedral of the Child Jesus to bid farewell to a man that several mourners have described as a soldier not only in uniform, but one that dedicated himself to serving God and humanity. The body of General Chintu, who died in India on January 11, 2019, while seeking medical services there, arrived in the cathedral at about 11 hours to a fully packed church. Speaking when she addressed the mourners, Acting President Inongewina expressed sadness at the death of the man she described as a gallant soldier.
He flew most of the government officials and most civic leaders, including myself, in various operations within the country and abroad. The late Major General Kapoto Chintu was also instrumental in Zambia Air Force Helicopter Training School, where he trained Zambia Air Force helicopter pilots, including the Air Force Commander. As government, the death of Major General Kapoto Chintu has robbed us of a true son of Zambia.
Meanwhile, in his homily, Archdiocese of Lusaka Pastoral Coordinator Father Leonard Namuhumba encouraged the mourners to use the demise of the Deputy Commander to reflect on what kind of service they are rendering to society. Father Namuhumba said General Chintu served his God through his generosity, further challenging the mourners to emulate the late senior military officer who he said, apart from serving the nation, dedicated himself to the service of others.
The sense of charity was there throughout his life. How can I reach out? How can I serve? We gather today around his body to pay our last goodbyes. And for sure after Mass we will go to the graveyard and say the final goodbye. But there is one person who will not say goodbye: God. There are no goodbyes to God. He accompanies us here on earth. He accompanies us when we leave this world to another world. Because he is the God who is and who continues to be and who will ever be.
And speaking on behalf of the family, brother to the deceased retired Major Charles Chintu said the family has lost a peacemaker. Major Chintu also disclosed that his brother's passion for military service started while he was too young. The 51-year-old Major General Kapato Chintu joined the Zambia Air Force on June 22, 1980 and was appointed as Deputy Zambia Air Force Commander on 4th October 2018. The Deputy Commander, who is survived by a wife with 2 children and 6 grandchildren, has since been buried at the Leopard's Hill Memorial Park. Chilesha Mwango reporting for QTV News at the Cathedral of the Child Jesus in Lusaka.
Governance, Elections, Advocacy and Research Services Gears Initiative Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi has joined other stakeholders in condemning what is termed as government's wastage of public resources. First Lady Esther Lungu's trip to the United States of America, where she has gone to receive a donation of fire trucks, has caused a public outcry over her 25-member accompanying delegation, which will spend 15 days in the United States. In a walk-in interview, Mr. Chipenzi says the receiving of fire engines should have been left to the Zambian mission in Washington. Mr. Chipenzi states that government should realize that it took the sacrifice of little resources by countries that are today making donations of all kinds to Zambia to attain the development they have. He laments that this is coming at a time government is preaching about austerity measures which it is not adhering to.
It's a very sad situation. It's an issue of concern. Mind you that the First Lady is not a constitutional office. The First Lady is not a government officer or state officer or public officer. She is there because of the husband who is in State House. So all what is happening is basically impunity of the West order. And because people like traveling from their countries to other countries, they forget that those countries were developed by the sacrifices of their own citizens. And because of this African mentality that we have, that we only want to stay in town, we don't want farms, we don't want the bush, we always want to rush to America. So for the First Lady to carry all that entourage, to receive or to observe or to see, to inspect the fire tenders, it's really an abuse of public resources. It's a very
Health Minister Dr. Chitalo Chilufya says prevention of HIV/AIDS is one of the pillars of government in its pursuit to attain epidemic control of HIV. Speaking during the HIV Prevention Coalition meeting in Lusaka, Dr. Chilufya says the intention of government is to attain epidemic control of HIV/AIDS by the year 2021. Dr. Chilufya states that emphasis has been placed on prevention in the transformation agenda. He says government considers the health of Zambians as a key economic investment. Dr. Chilufya adds that pushing for epidemic control of HIV/AIDS is part of the global agenda of attaining universal health coverage. He states that while having the Ministry of Finance and the private sector is typical, it is also important to have the community on board. Dr. Chilufya has also called upon all cooperating partners to continue collaborating with government in the fight against HIV/AIDS.
I must state from the outset that the National Prevention Coalition mechanism aims at increasing stakeholder responsibility towards HIV prevention. And it is aimed at fast-tracking Zambia. It is aimed at fast-tracking Zambia's march towards attaining the fast-track targets of 1990. Prevention of HIV/AIDS is one of the pillars in our pursuit to attain epidemic control of HIV. In our transformation agenda, we've placed emphasis on prevention. The Patriotic Front Party government, led by His Excellency Mr. Edgar Chakolumu, pictures the health of Zambians as key economic investment. When we look at our epidemiological profile, we pick up HIV/AIDS as one of the devastating public health challenges. The chronology of our interventions in our health systems delivery program starts with promoting good health and preventing illness. It is important that we prevent diseases, so HIV must be prevented. To prevent HIV/AIDS, we're going to reduce the burden on health systems. If we prevent HIV/AIDS, we're going to be firmly on track to attain our universal health coverage legacy goal. So, pushing for epidemic control of HIV/AIDS is part of the broader agenda of attaining universal health coverage. To prevent diseases, to build strong health systems requires that we build a coalition of partners, stakeholders who will different resources work together towards universal coverage. In building strong health systems, we need to focus on a sound healthcare financing mechanism. Having the Ministry of Finance on board is critical. Having private sector on board is critical. It is important to have the community on board. It is important to have the church, all cooperative partners. So it is critical for us to state from the word-go that building a coalition of partners to prevent HIV/AIDS is investing in the health of Zambians. It is investing in the health systems of Zambians. This is the importance of the meeting we have today.
Speaking at the same meeting, National HIV/AIDS STI/TB Council Director Policy and Planning, Dr. John Marley, says the HIV prevalence among sex workers is very high at 56.8% compared to 11.6% in the general population. Dr. Marley says there is need to have interventions that address these challenges and make sure that the prevention agenda is driven forward.
So you realize that most of the interventions that you hear about, they have to do with treatment. So we are, championing the prevention agenda because we want to close the tap. Currently we have over 44,000 new infections of HIV, and out of that, realization that we have this number of people that are contracting the virus. We actually, of course, working together with global partners like the United Nations program on HIV, the UNAIDS, as well as UNFPA. we had to come together and form this coalition. The coalition is actually chaired by the Minister of Health and Minister of Finance, and the vice chair is from the faith-based, of course, Bishop Mususu. So what we were presenting today is basically the performance of each of the 5 pillars that we've set for ourselves. So 5 pillars include how are we performing under, for example, comprehensive condom programming. How are we performing, under the pillar of voluntary medical non-circumcision? How are we performing under the pillar of PrEP? Okay.
Agriculture Minister Michael Katambo says only 220 million kwacha is owed to agro dealers and transporters government engaged in the Farmer Input Support Program FISIP. Mr. Katambo has told Q News that early this week the Ministry of Finance released 100 million kwacha to pay off agro dealers and transporters engaged to distribute FISIP products to farmers across the country in the 2017-2018 farming season. He says government initially owed agro dealers an initial amount of 423 million kwacha, which has since reduced to 220 million kwacha. Meanwhile, Mr. Katambo says he is happy with the good rainfall pattern the country is experiencing. He says the government, through his ministry, will continue working closely with the Meteorological Department, who are giving consolidated reports on the rainfall pattern being experienced in the country.
FISIP e-voucher program is progressing very well. We are on a day-to-day engaging the Ministry of Finance, and of us today they released another 100 million because we had a balance of about 423 million. So as of today we have a balance now of about 220 million for us to complete paying our agro dealers and transporters across the country who we contracted and engaged as a ministry. So far the program and its implementation is progressing very well. And also we're working with our colleagues in the Ministry of Transport and Communication. The Meteorological Department is also giving us updated consolidated reports on rainfall patterns, which is moderate, and as you can witness, it's raining almost every day.
The Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU says that 4 million kwacha is needed to address the damage caused by rains and other unforeseen calamities in the country. DMMU Public Relations Officer Chama Mupanga says the unit has engaged the Ministry of Finance to help source the money for rehabilitation works across the country following various requests that are being received from around the country. She says that the DMMU is currently addressing the urgency of the various requests presented to it. Ms. Mupanga says the unit has received complaints from Muchinga, Lwapula, Eastern, Northwestern and Western provinces, mostly involving floods, blown away roofs, flooded water channels and washed away bridges. She states that DMMU has formulated a contingency plan which consists of various stakeholders coordinated by the unit. Ms. Mupanga says that the unit is ready for any unforeseen calamities with contingency funds readily available. She cited Chama District as one of the area being considered for assistance after floods were recently reported. Ms. Mupanga further states that the situation assessments are currently being done by provincial disaster management and mitigation units across the country. Financial analyst Trevor Hambai doubts government will be able to effect the sales tax on 1st April this year. Mr. Hambai says this is considering the cost that will come with the implementation of this tax. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Hambai says he foresees issues of accounting taking time before the sales tax can start reflecting on all private businesses. He states that it is therefore unquestionable that government determines the rate at which it will be levying the sales tax. Mr. Hambai has also urged government to provide details on the procedures it will follow in implementing the tax and how carryovers from the value-added tax VAT will be handled when the sales tax comes into effect.
It's obviously creating uncertainty, but it's uncertainty that we cannot work with until we have an actual number in terms of what the tax rate is going to be. And obviously the costs that are going to come, I do not think it will be possible to implement it on the 1st of April because firstly the issues regarding accounting has to be changed for all the businesses, and this will take time before we can actually implement it in terms of it's reflecting on the returns of private companies. It is unquestionable that government should have determined what rate they are going to be charging and how they intend to implement this and how the carryover is going to be from VAT to government sales tax. And it is very, very important that government actually comes out forthright and gives us what the rate is going to be.
Commuters' Rights Association of Zambia President Aaron Kamuti has noted the need for the local authorities across the country to be proactive in enforcing the law in order to ensure that there is sanity and cleanliness in the country to prevent any outbreak of cholera. Mr. Kamuti has accused the local authority of not being responsible enough in enforcing the laws. He says that the blame should not be on members of the public or commuters throwing litter, but on local authorities who are allowing lawlessness to prevail. He notes that currently there is uncollected garbage in the central business district of Lusaka and that people are being allowed to put up structures on drainages and spaces not meant for any structures. Mr. Kamuti has since urged local authorities, especially the Lusaka City Council, to up their game in enforcing the law and providing effective services to the public, such as collection of garbage, especially in the rainy season.
We have the local authority with all the required rules and regulations which will require somebody to abide before you put up a structure, but these rules are not followed. If you look at where Korima Tower is, initially that Korima Tower bus station wasn't a bus station, that was a car park. It was made out of Korima Tower building so that the people will be operating from Korima Tower building will be parking their vehicles in there. And overnight you can park a vehicle there. But now, due to greediness from our local authority, they turn that into a bus station. Now look at what is happening during the rainy season. The drainage, they are still telling us because people are throwing plastics and litter anyhow, but that is not making sense. It's their responsibility to see to it that the garbage is collected in the CBZs of Lusaka, even countrywide. We're still seeing that the drainages are being blocked, despite we have this engagement with the Millennium digging trenches and drain system, which has taken too long for them to finish that job. But still we have this challenge of water not moving because of garbage. It's not that people are throwing garbage anyhow. It's the local authority not being responsible in collecting this garbage. That's the biggest problem. Right now we have a serious problem in Chingwere and Matero. Anytime there can be an outbreak of cholera. We went there physically. Since we are working with the Minister of Health, we went to check the situation there. It's pathetic. A lot of garbage is just thrown. Some roads are even blocked. But now the question is, why is the local authority?
To end the news, we take a look at stories making headlines. The ruling Patriotic Front and 30 other political parties under the ZCID have resolved to shun the launch of the National Dialogue by the Church. UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema says the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue should not keep dragging the country backwards. And the Zambia Tax Platform, ZTP, has echoed the call for government and mining companies to dialogue in order to resolve the tax standoff. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Diana Sumbwe. Thank you for watching.